All right, it doesn't matter if you've been dating a couple weeks, couple months, or you've been married for 50 years, couples fight. We all know this.
Yep.
But we can fight better. And here to tell us how, we have Christian Smith. He's a licensed therapist from Change Happens in Chicopee. So we have some common traps to avoid, and I think everybody at home might as well grab a pen and a pencil, because these are really important tips, because, you know, we've all been there. So the first one is communicating when you're emotionally heated. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think that is that's number one on the list, because that's the biggest trap. Oftentimes we want to communicate when we're really upset, and that's the worst time to really talk about something.
That's
when
true.
you're really heated, you're going to say things that you regret. You're going to say things that maybe you don't really mean, but you really feel. And so that's a big trap to avoid. The best thing to do is to try to calm yourself down.
It's almost like everybody needs to take a time out, you know, go to your separate corners for a few minutes and then talk about it.
Exactly.
The other thing that people do, I'm guilty of it, I'm sure a lot of people at home are guilty of it, it's speaking in extremes. You always do this. You never do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you speak in extremes like that, again, you're going to put the other person on the defense, because it maybe is not the best representative of the truth.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it'd be better to speak specifically, like, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel.
For example, if my wife and I are fighting, she might say something like, you never take the trash out, which, you know,
It's
maybe
not true, right?
I don't take the trash out often, but, you know, every once in a while I take the trash out, so never is inaccurate in that situation. Blaming or labeling is also something you don't like. Yeah.
So along with the last one, if someone says you're so inconsiderate, I mean, it's kind of a blanket statement, and not the best representative of the truth, and it could make you really defensive.
Sure, if it's about something, you're blowing it up and making it about more than that. You're so inconsiderate. Doesn't mean all the time necessarily. Another thing you talk about, minimizing personal responsibility. What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes it might be easier to look at what the other person is doing and excuse your own responsibility.
Like saying, oh, I did this, but it was because.
Right.
And you don't want to do that.
Right.
The other thing is having tunnel vision, when you only see the problems in your relationship.
Yeah. Well, that happens when you're in the middle of a fight. It's kind of hard to see the bigger picture, to see that your relationship is not always about fighting. It's just about this, you know, you're having an issue right now, and so to focus on the problem is only going to make it worse.
That's true, but you're right, though. You need to look at the big picture and say, you know what, in this situation right now, we're fighting, but we've had X amount of years or months or days that it's been really good.
And we can get through it.
Exactly. You can always get through it if you try. Another thing that you don't love, being silent, stuffing all your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you just want to be able to communicate. You want to try to communicate, and so if you keep it to yourself, you might more likely be making it bigger.
Exactly.
Right? If you just kind of hold on to it, you kind of stew over it, and it grows legs.
And sometimes if you keep pushing stuff down, you might turn and get passive aggressive about it over time.
Right.
And you don't want that.
too, yeah.
Now, last tip, this is the one that everybody says, oh, it's so obvious, but it's probably the most difficult one. How do you do some preventative maintenance in your relationship so that you don't have as many fights?
Well, it's like when you first start in a relationship, a lot of times people have they don't even think about fighting because they're having a good time. And it's so important for couples to continue to have fun, to continue to have a good time, because it's harder to fight when you're enjoying each other's company, when you're having a good time, when you're making good memories. And so the challenge is to continue with that.
That's true. You need to make your relationship thrive so you don't fall into those pits of despair and you don't want to fight all the time.
Right.
Great point. Christian, always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time. For more information, all you need to do is go to mymassappeal.com a little bit later today.